has provided beautiful resources to us, and it is our responsibility to conserve them for our future generations. Kabatti, let's learn about this more, and what are the different resources, how to conserve them, how we, without our knowledge we are spoiling them with our interventions, how we are making it polluted, and how to conserve them. Anni concepts with beautiful activities ni manam chuddam ee chapter lo. So let's go quickly into the objective. Case 1. Exactly. But before we start up with this, we need to have a basic discussion about these natural resources. See, manam already previous chapter lo konni natural resources kosam chadukunnam, like water, forests, like soil, flora, fauna. All these are the natural resources which are present abundance in our nature. Avuna? But how far we are taking care of it? Manam ante jagrata తీసుకుంటున్నామా ఈ natural resources ని? If your answer is yes, then you are a perfect human being of this globe. But if you are not taking the care of these natural resources, then we have to, because we know that these natural resources are the name itself tells that they are natural in nature, right? And we have to conserve them for our future generations, or we can say the future use. Now, we know very well that we have seen some of the activities in the previous lesson that mana human interventions wala, konni human activities wala, they are getting damaged, isn't it? So that's why I had a question that how far we are taking care of it. Exactly. Let's learn something more about these natural resources in this topic now, under the chapter of natural resources. So, aithe ikkada mana one of the natural resource ni teeskoni discussion anedi start chestam. So here we have a case study. So better to talk about a single resource, take single resource. Now let's take an example of water here, the basic resource, right? And now we are going to have a discussion on this with respect to two villages. Danni manam case study అని అన్నాం, right? So here is one of the case talking about situation of water resource in Vanaparthi and Vadicherla areas of Jangaon district. So ఏం జరిగింది ఇక్కడ? Basically what it is said that Vanaparthi was never had any disputes or any scarcity of water when compared with Vadicherla, because Vadicherla lo anta water scarcity problem undedanta, Vanaparthilo alanti problems ఏమీ లేవు. So when we talk about water in Vanaparthi, it was well and good, sufficient, there was no scarcity problem. But coming for Vadicherla, the water was less, the scarcity of water was more. So wells were observed in both the villages, right? So people, they went, the village people, and they gathered lot of information regarding the wells that are available, because primary source antam kada, the primary source of irrigation anedi enti wells. So wells gurinchi information teeskovam jarigindi. They had lot of questionnaire talking about what are the different problems, like we say socio-economical problems మీద కూడా కొన్ని questions వేయడం జరిగాయి. So that's why we said that basic information on irrigation was under wells was gathered. So irrigation యొక్క basic మనం ఏమంటున్నాం source అనేది wells. So irrigation కి సంబంధించి wells ఒక ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ ని గ్యాదర్ చేయడం జరిగింది, especially from the well owners of those villages. So that's why we said well owners here. And even questions regarding socio-economical aspects were also discussed. Appudu then 25 families, now they started, of all these villages, 25 families from each village, actually not all, each village into 25 families, now they were said to narrate the changes that they needed in groundwater situations from last 5 years. So last 5 years నుంచి వాళ్ళు చూసిన మార్పులు ఎలా వచ్చాయి ఏంటి దాని మీద ఒక ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ ని నెరేట్ చేయమని చెప్పడం జరిగింది. So this was the first initiation with these 25 families of each village. Later it was mentioned that no alternative sources of water supply as against wells in Vadicherla was found, but percolation tanks అనేవి మాత్రం ఉండేవంట. What is this percolation tank? Yes, these are said to be the earthen dam-like structures which are, they overflow the water. So ఇవేం చేస్తారు, జనరల్ గా మనం టెక్స్ట్ బుక్ లో కానీ పిక్చర్ చూస్తే we have the storage of water are being done in these percolation tank for the process of irrigation anamata. So these are being constructed to save the water for irrigation purpose. So percolation tanks were available, but the the availability of water, the situation of the water was much better in Vanaparti. అందుకే ఏమంటున్నాం, the scarcity was observed at Vadicherla because Vanaparti was well good in the supply of water. So here basic features of Vanaparti and Vadicherla, they are said to be similar in both. Like ela, take an example of occupation, right? Ante వాళ్ళు చేసే ఉద్యోగాలు ఏంటి, వాళ్ళ ఒక జాబ్, డైలీ ఇన్కమ్ ఏంటి, హౌస్ హోల్డ్ ఇన్కమ్ ఎలా వస్తుంది. అలాగే if you talk about cropping pattern, okay, so బేసిక్ గా మనం చెప్పుకుంటే ఆక్యుపేషన్, క్రాపింగ్ ప్యాటర్న్ అంటే ఏ పద్ధతిలో క్రాపింగ్ చేస్తారు, అండ్ మోర్ ఓవర్ ఇఫ్ యూ టాక్ అబౌట్ జియోగ్రఫికల్ గా అలాగే ఇన్ఫ్రాస్ట్రక్చర్ గా, సో వి మెన్షన్ జియోగ్రఫికలీ అలాగే ఇన్ఫ్రాస్ట్రక్చర్, ఇవన్నీ కూడా దే ఆర్ సిమిలర్ ఇన్ బోత్ దీస్ విలేజెస్, లైక్ బోత్ ఇన్ వనపర్తి అండ్ వడిచెర్ల. బట్ హియర్ basically in these two villages, the main occupation for them is cultivation, right? So cultivation mede mottam base ayi undanamata. So we say it is cultivation. Now this cultivation cheyali ante what is the main source that is required? Exactly, the source of water, availability of water అనేది ఉండాలి, అవునా? అప్పుడే కదా మనం క్రాప్ ఈల్డింగ్ కానీ క్రాప్ ప్యాటర్న్స్ ని మనం ప్రాపర్ గా మెయింటైన్ చేయగలుగుతాం. సో సోర్స్ ఆఫ్ వాటర్ ఈజ్ ఈక్వల్లీ ఇంపార్టెంట్. దాన్ని ఇక్కడ ఏమంటున్నాం, గ్రౌండ్ వాటర్ అంటున్నాం. సో అవైలబిలిటీ ఆఫ్ గ్రౌండ్ వాటర్ ఈజ్ వెరీ వెరీ ఇంపార్టెంట్. అండ్ especially when you have a comparative between this Vadicherla and Vanaparti. Vanaparti has the highest household income when compared to Vadicherla, right? Enduku manam already cheptunnam, the availability of water in Vanaparti is much better when compared to Vadicherla. So kabatti what we say here is small land holdings farmers evarite unnaro, this is in these type of farmers are more in both the villages. Kani and in the small land holding farmers ante like the farmers which they have their cultivation in a less area but they have a good income. Small land holdings anevi ekkugane unnai in both the villages. Kani Vanaparti lo matram they have a higher household income, right? Because only one of the major answer is that they have a good source of water for cultivation. So primary source of water emantunam ikkada, the wells. So wells anevi as they have the dug wells which are the open dug wells. Now these are very much said to be as a primary source for crop yielding. So alage manam cheppukuntu velte, now there is a tabular form which is talking here about the comparative study between the area of the acre of land present in both the villages, alage enta area irrigation ki use chesevaru, alage equal we talking about the number of villages. So as we know, we are talking about Vanaparti and Vadicherla. So here Vanaparti and Vadicherla, they have their areas mentioned in the form of acres. Ekkadaithe Vanaparti 4,000 acres, right? And Vadicherla is 3,000 acres. Now, with respect to the amount of acre, now the area under irrigation, enta irrigation ki use chesnaru ante it is about 1,000 acres. Alage Vadicherla vachesariki only 450 acres, right? Kani number of wells figure maatladte Vadicherla is having more number of wells when compared to Vanaparti, which is 155 and Vadicherla with 175. So what is happening, ikkada area of irrigation anedi takku undi because the scarcity of water, the problem of scarcity of water in Vadicherla, but where availability of water is much better in Vanaparti. So andike ikkada irrigation ee renditiki compare cheskunte ikkada land of irrigation, we say area under irrigation is more in Vanaparti, avana? So this is what the comparative study tells about between these two villages. Endukante mana main one of the source enti ikkada, the water resource ni base cheskoni manam irrigation land irrigation area gurinchi maatladalanukunte first we should know the total area they have, right? Then we can understand the variation and the differences when we talk in a comparative study. Though we say the rains has not been consistent in few years in these villages, the farmers of these villages, they have a cultivation of paddy. So paddy cultivation anedi start chesaru because rains levu, availability of water kuda it was very average, or we can say very less. Now this is a tabular form. We are talking the data after 5 years. So the change in the area under irrigation and the number of wells since 5 years is being presented in this table. Now, even due to these all consequences, people in the villages have been nearly decreased to 10%. Right? So as you can see, we are talking in Vanapati and Vadicherla. Avuna? ఇప్పుడు ఏరియా అండర్ ఇరిగేషన్ ఎంత అయిపోయింది వనపర్తిలో 860, విచ్ వాజ్ 1000 acres బిఫోర్. అలాగే ఏరియా అండర్ ఇరిగేషన్ ఇన్ acres in Vadicherla has decreased to 315, which was almost like 450, like that. Okay, so what is happening? It is getting decreased day by day, and just see the major difference. The number of wells in Vanapati were 155, where now it is only 95. Now as you can see, the number of wells which was more for Vadicherla 175, it has been decreased to 56.